On May 18th, the Orioles lost their sixth game in a row, a sweep at the hands of the Detroit Tigers, and a trio of losses in their four-game set against the red-hot Yankees. Their record fell to 14-24, and it looked as though 2022 was going to be business as usual for the perpetually rebuilding franchise. Sparks of production from young talent, but a fundamental inability to create a sustainable, winning product. They would stay 10 games under 500 through the first week of the following month, but ultimately went 14-12 in June, their best month of the season to that point. And then, a miracle. The Orioles took over the national spotlight with an improbable 10-game win streak, sweeping through would-be contenders like the Rangers, Angels, and Cubs, taking them from 10 games under 500 to a game above 500 on July 13th, the deepest into a season they have been a winning team since 2016. It was a nice story, though many, including myself, thought that's all it would be. A brief, nice moment for a lowly franchise. But now we're in September, and these damn birds are still kicking. Even after the front office traded away beloved franchise faces like Trey Mancini and Jorge Lopez, the Orioles have continued to defy the odds, playing winning baseball in maybe the toughest division in baseball history. So how did we get here? How did Baltimore become the sensational story of the 2022 season? Is their rebuild finally over? And what does the future look like for the hottest young team in baseball? Let's dive into everything that's clicked in Birdland this year. Well, it starts with the young talent, specifically the most talented young player in baseball, and that's Adley Rutschman. Rutschman made his long-anticipated MLB debut on May 21st, though things didn't go quite so smoothly at the beginning. Through his first 15 games, Rutschman went just 8 for 56 with no home runs and 15 punch-outs. But this was a team playing for the future, so no one saw much harm in letting Rutschman continue to work out the kinks at the big league level. Little did we know, though, that Rutschman was absolutely ready for adversity at the top level of baseball. Since that low stretch to kick off his career, Rutschman has been a spark plug for the Orioles lineup, with an OPS well over 800, 25 doubles, a walk percentage in the 96th percentile of all hitters, and a framing rate in the 91st percentile of all major league catchers. His well-rounded play is quickly staking his claim as arguably the best catcher in all of baseball at just 24 years old. Since the beginning of June, when Rutschman debuted, the Orioles are in the top half of the league for weighted runs created plus, stolen bases, home runs, and vital contact statistics including line drive and hard hit percentages. Adley definitely trickles down the success, but it isn't only Adley making it happen at the plate. The team is getting plenty of contributions from all throughout their lineup, with each everyday hitter slugging over 400 aside from one, with 7 of their everyday hitters with double-digit home runs, 8 if you count Trey Mancini's total of 10 before he was traded. Orioles are surprisingly one of the most well-rounded offensive teams in baseball, and if you want to go see this team live, you better hit up my sponsor for today's video, SeatGeek. We're quickly approaching the playoffs of baseball season, and you're going to want to lock up your tickets now, and you can get $20 off tickets at SeatGeek with my promo code JOLLY. It's going to be tough to find cheap playoff tickets, obviously, but hit up some September games and use their ticketing app, which is the best in the business, making it simple for everyone that uses it. I've got the app on my phone, and it's insanely easy to use. And it's not just for baseball either, whether it's concerts, other sports like football and basketball, or music festivals. SeatGeek puts tickets from all over the web in one place to make buying as easy as possible. SeatGeek wants to make sure you're getting a good deal, so look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. Pretty simple. I think you learned that in kindergarten. And don't worry, I've got the hookup. Just use my promo code JOLLY for $20 off tickets. That'll be for your first purchase with promo code JOLLY. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and use my code today. And thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video. Now back to our birds. Leading the charge on the power front is Anthony Santander, who's vastly improved in various areas of his hitting approach while maintaining his power. He burst on the scene with a great performance in the 2020 season, but regressed to a below-average hitter in a disappointing 2021. But he's completely regained his form this year, becoming the most reliable Orioles hitter. Even in his better years, Santander usually struggled against changeups and sliders, averaging a -2 run value on each pitch respectively throughout his career. This year, though, he's managing a +4 run value for both, slugging over 400 on both of those pitches. He's also seen a 3% bump in walk percentage, currently at a clip above 8%. This isn't a staggering rate, but it's also the best of his career, helping him to an on-base percentage 30 points better than his career average, which is just a smidge over 300. Batting third and fourth primarily, Santander has been an integral cog of the Baltimore offense, especially with a down year from Cedric Mullins, who was an MVP candidate just a year ago. I'll admit, saying Mullins is having a down year is definitely unfair, so you can go ahead and delete your comment that you were typing out. Even in his down year, if you can call it that, Cedric Mullins is still an above-league average hitter with serious talent in the field and on the base paths. He exceeds the 80th percentile in sprint speed and the 90th percentile in outs above average, and is currently tied with his teammate Jorge Mateo for the major league lead in stolen bases with 28. Considering his 30-30 campaign with a 136 OPS OPS+ last year, Mullins has taken a step back but is still incredibly productive for Baltimore. The other side of that stolen base tandem, Jorge Mateo, is finally putting things together at the big league level. Mateo was originally the #1 prospect in the Yankees farm system in 2016 and was famously the piece that New York was unwilling to part with when negotiating a Manny Machado trade with the Orioles in 2018. So I guess things have come a little bit full circle. Since then, he was part of the Sonny Gray trade and bounced from Oakland to San Diego as he struggled to find footing at the big league level. In a way, Baltimore was a perfect landing spot for him, as it gave him his first real chance at everyday at-bats. It wasn't pretty for a while, as Mateo batted under 200 with an OPS under 600 from the first week of April to the first week of July. But since that first week of July, Mateo has been hitting to his true potential, as he's OPS'd near 900 with 20 extra base hits over his last 40 or so games. And Mateo has always been a threat for his jaw-dropping defense and speed. He ranks in the 99th percentile of sprint speed, tying the aforementioned Mullins for the stolen base lead per the recording of this video, and staking his claim as one of the fastest guys in baseball. He also plays defense in the 90th percentile of outs above average at the toughest position on the infield, showcasing his amazing range. You could probably say the weakest cog in the Orioles lineup has been second baseman Rougned Odor, long known as a home run or bust threat with decent speed and below average defense. This has been one of his weaker years for sure, but he has maybe the most confusing splits of any player in baseball. He is known as the clutch god of Baltimore. In what are considered low or medium leverage situations, Rugi is batting well under 200 with an OPS well under 600, but in high leverage situations, Odor is a beast with 6 home runs and an 820 OPS and nearly 100 high leverage plate appearances. Some guys just play for the bright lights, and Rougned Odor is definitely one of them. More can be said about this Orioles offense, but the gist is this. Basically, every hitter on the team has an OPS+ near or above 100, also known as league average, with double-digit home run totals across the board. Their even split of contact hitting and power, even with the new left field wall, has put them in a great position to win ball games consistently. Their X factor, though, has been their pitching, which has shocked everyone. Their rotation has not been stellar, but also not nearly as bad as their 100-loss seasons, with their 4.35 rotation ERA ranking 21st in MLB per the recording of this video. It starts at the top with the assumed ace Jordan Lyles, also known as the innings eater. He has tossed nearly 50 innings more than the starter with the second most on the team, and though his ERA has never dipped below 4 at any point this season, he's been incredibly reliable for the Orioles, giving the bullpen aid every 5th day. He's seen improvement this year thanks to a reduced usage of his fastball and curveball, which have been his 2 most used pitches every year since 2018. Changing things up in your arsenal is a bit risky this late in your career, but this year he's increased his reliance on other secondary pitches like his slider, sinker, and changeup. But the true standouts of this reformed Baltimore rotation come from their young slingers who've come into their own in 2022. After pitching to an ERA of 6 through the first 2 months of the season, Spencer Watkins was demoted to AAA. This wasn't surprising considering his ERA sat above 8 at the end of his miserable 2021 season. What killed him and many other Baltimore pitchers last year was the home run ball, with his 2.3 home run per 9 rate being 5th worst in MLB among pitchers with at least 50 innings pitched. The worst rate belonged to a teammate of his, which we'll get to in a little bit. But at age 30, the former 30th round pick has finally found success at the big league level. Since his return to the big leagues on June 25th, Watkins has pitched to a 2.83 ERA in 9 starts, and the key change has been his newly developed slider that has turned into his primary whiff pitch that he throws 18% of the time. It ranks in the top 35 of MLB for run value at -5, though that value is likely to improve since he's only had it for a couple months, and is now throwing it on a regular basis. Though if the Orioles make the playoffs, I'd have to imagine they'd hand the ball to Dean Kramer in their first game. Kramer was the guy that led the league in home run per 9 last year, but he has become essentially the only piece of the Manny Machado trade to begin paying dividends at the big league level. It was a tough road to get here. Last year, he had a 19.5 home run to fly ball ratio, ranking 25th highest in MLB for pitchers with at least 50 innings pitched. But that's drastically fallen this year to 6.9%, and while you can attribute some of it to the deeper left field wall, Kramer has changed a lot from last season to reach his true potential. His cutter has made a huge change in his game. Not only is he throwing it over 10% more from his rate last year, he's added a full inch to its horizontal movement on average at the sacrifice of its vertical drop. His cutter usage has improved his ground ball rate 8% from last year, and though his whiff rate on that pitch is relatively the same, it's the strikeout potential of his four-seam fastball that has skyrocketed skyrocketed because of it. Having two true primary fastballs has allowed Kramer to lean on his four-seamer less, allowing it to become more deceiving. Not to mention Kramer has added nearly a full mile per hour to it as well, averaging nearly 94 miles per hour on every four-seamer thrown. This has all enabled Kramer to attack the zone much more than in the past, which has resulted in a near 10% increase in first pitch strike percentage and a 5% drop in walk percentage. With Kramer controlling the zone much better than last season, he ranks well above the 80th percentile of walk percentage, despite ranking below the 25th percentile last year. Although Kramer didn't come up with the team until June this year, he's enjoyed an absolutely dominant August, ranking among the best of the best in terms of American League starting pitchers for this calendar month, including a 2.25 ERA and only one home run allowed in 32 innings. The Orioles have also gotten fantastic pitching from the likes of Austin Voth and Tyler Wells, who went down with injury at the end of July. Those guys shouldn't be forgotten, and the fact that the Orioles have cobbled together solid starting pitching from Kramer and company without the help of their de facto ace John Means speaks volumes to the surprising depth of this team. But as most fans know, the real strength of the Orioles pitching staff comes from their daunting bullpen, a stable of newly successful young guns that can hang with any team in MLB. I personally thought things would begin to fall apart when the front office made the decision to trade away their all-star closer Jorge Lopez. In his third year with the club, Lopez's transition to the closer role was seamless, as he posted an ERA below 2 with nearly 20 saves in the first half for the O's. Little did everyone know, his departure would pave the way for one of the most electric arms in baseball to seize the spotlight. It's time you learn the name Felix Bautista if you don't know it already. After transitioning from a starter to a reliever in the minor leagues, Bautista surged from high A to AAA in 2021 alone, and he debuted in April this year with the club, primarily serving as the setup man to Jorge Lopez. But since his assumption of the closer role, Bautista has been lights out, locking down 7 saves while only allowing a pair of solo home runs over 13 innings, managing the 7th best strikeout rate among all MLB relievers at 35.7%. And unlike the other guys, it's no secret why Bautista is absolutely nasty. He possesses a four-seamer that averages out at 99 miles per hour on the gun, coupled with a splitter that hitters are batting under 100 against, and a vertical slider that drops 4 more inches than the league average break. So in simplest terms, he's got high heat as good as anyone, paired up with 2 drop pitches that veer in completely opposite directions despite coming out of his hand exactly the same. That's terrifying. Not to mention, he has one of the coolest walkouts of any closer in baseball. That whistle gave me chills when I heard it at Camden Yards for the first time. But it's not just Bautista carrying weight, as the Orioles have gotten unlikely contributions from familiar and new faces in their pen. Cionel Perez is the newest setup guy on the block, and not only is he good against hitters from both sides of the plate despite being a lefty, he's absolute filth when he's got the Baltimore faithful behind him, rocking a 0.36 ERA in his games at Camden Yards. Home field advantage is very real. There's also the former 4th overall pick from the 2015 draft, Dylan Tate. It's been a long road for Tate, as he struggled to make it as a starter and bounced around from Texas to the Bronx before landing with the O's in 2019. After ditching his cutter and four-seamer last season and adding a slider to his repertoire, Tate has become a resident righty killer on the team, mostly thanks to his nasty sinker. His current walk rate of 4.2% is half of what his career average is, and the negative 16 run value of his sinker makes his sinker the best sinker in all of baseball. Tate hasn't allowed a home run to a righty in over 150 plate appearances, holding them to a paltry 510 OPS against. But if he's the righty killer, Keegan Aiken is the lefty killer. He's improved vastly in his switch from the rotation to the bullpen. With the Orioles no longer having a necessity for him to eat innings, Aiken has turned into a dominant lefty killer out of the pen, with only 2 extra base hits allowed to lefties in over 100 plate appearances and a 381 OPS against. His 181 slugging percentage against for left-handers is 5th in MLB. As a team, their bullpen currently ranks 5th in MLB for ERA with a 3.19 mark, they're 4th for walk percentage at a minuscule 7.8% clip, and 2nd for ground ball percentage, only trailing the Yankees with their 48% rate, working wonders for their solid infield defense. There are so many guys on the Orioles bench and lower end of the rotation and bullpen that I haven't mentioned that have made significant contributions to the team's success this year, but this video would be an hour long if we dove into everything, and maybe we will at some point. The main point is this: the Orioles are chock full of extremely young, controllable talent with tons of money off the books ready to spend for the upcoming free agency class. If all continues to go well, this is just the beginning of their window. As it stands right now, they're out of the playoff picture despite their winning record. This doesn't necessarily mean they can't make one last final push at it, but I believe Baltimore is going to be good for years to come, and best of all, this team has one of the best baseball cities in the league behind them. Baltimore deserves a good team, and I believe they finally finally have one after years of dumpster diving and mediocrity. Finish strong, boys. That'll do it for this video. I'm the Jolly Olive, and I'll see you guys next time.